Okay, so have you ever felt like you're kind of just, throwing darts blindfolded when it comes to building products?
Yeah, we've all been there.
Yeah.
Well, today we are diving deep, and I mean deep, into continuous product discovery. And to guide us on this journey, we have Teresa Torres' book, Continuous Discovery Habits. We're going to be talking all about how to build products, but not just any products. We're talking about products that people absolutely love and that, of course, make business sense.
Right?
And it's all fueled by data and customer feedback. So, expert speaker, are you ready to help us unlock this continuous discovery thing?
Absolutely. Think of continuous discovery as, think of it like having this ongoing conversation with your customers.
Okay.
Throughout the entire product development journey, it's really about weaving their insights into every single step. From that initial, spark of an idea all the way to launching it out into the world, and then what happens after too.
So it's not just like one and done. It's not like we're doing a research sprint. It's like
Yeah.
this system, this constant learning, always adapting kind of thing.
Exactly.
Okay, so what makes this different from the way maybe a lot of us are used to that traditional product development?
Yeah, so traditional methods, they often just struggle to keep pace with, just the ever-changing needs of customers.
Right.
It's so easy to get stuck, clinging to those initial ideas, even when the data is telling you otherwise.
Yeah, you get married to that first idea.
Exactly, and it's like a runaway train
Oh, no.
speeding towards a destination based on, well, assumptions, not really reality.
Yes.
So continuous discovery is about building a more agile vehicle, one that can adapt, adjust course in real time.
It's like swapping out the train tracks for a winding river.
You're constantly navigating, you're adjusting to the currents of customer needs. Okay, I'm liking this analogy. But how do we build this adaptable vehicle? What are the core principles, the things that drive continuous discovery?
So the book really emphasizes four kind of agile principles.
Okay.
And the first one is shorter development cycles. But the key is frequent check-ins with your customers.
Okay, so it's like taking smaller steps on a hike so you can make sure you're still on the right path, right?
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. The second one is it's got to be a sustainable pace.
Yeah.
This isn't a sprint. It's not about, rushing to the finish line. It's about, can you keep this pace up? Building something you can maintain, for the long haul.
You're going the distance, you're not trying to burn out in the first mile.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, what about the other principles? I'm ready.
All right. So the third principle is it's about flexibility.
Okay.
You're gathering these customer insights. You have to be prepared to adapt and adjust your course.
Okay.
Think about navigating a maze.
Mm.
Sometimes you're going to hit some dead ends, but you're going to find your way through. And then finally, it's about prioritizing, ruthlessly prioritizing
Okay.
what you build. What are you actually building?
Focusing on, is this truly delivering value?
No more feature overload.
Exactly.
So we're ditching the feature factory mindset and we're laser focused on building the right things the right way. Okay, this is all sounding good in theory, but paint me a real world picture.
Sure.
Give me an example of a company that's nailing this continuous discovery thing.
Well, Spotify.
Yeah.
Spotify is constantly experimenting with new features, new algorithms, based on, they're using data and feedback.
Okay.
For instance, the Discover Weekly playlist.
Oh, yeah.
Which is it's a curated mix of songs tailored to, what you like. That came out of continuous discovery. They analyzed the listening data, conducted interviews. They discovered that people really wanted personalized music recommendations.
Yeah.
It's so true. And Discover Weekly is like the thing that everybody loves. So perfect example of continuous discovery leading to those aha moments, those product innovations. Now, the book really emphasizes this shift from an output-driven mindset to one that's all about outcomes. So break that down for us. What does that mean and why is it so important?
Okay, yeah. It's about shifting your focus from, okay, imagine this. You're building a fitness app.
Okay.
An output-driven approach might be, let's add as many workout routines as possible.
Okay, got it.
But an outcome-driven approach is going to start by asking, well, what are we actually trying to achieve for our users?
Right. Are we trying to help them, lose weight, gain muscle, or just move their bodies more?
Exactly. You've got it.
Okay.
It's about first identifying what is that desired outcome, and then working backwards. How do we get there? What are the features? What are the solutions to achieve that outcome?
Got it. So it's not just about building, it's about building the right things, things that actually move the needle, both for your users and, of course, for your business.
Exactly. And a great example of that is Airbnb.
Okay.
Early on, they realized Our users aren't just looking for a place to stay.
Right.
They're looking for an experience, a sense of belonging. And that outcome-driven mindset led them to focus on how do we foster community? How do we create connection? And so they have their experiences platform, right?
Mm.
Where hosts can offer unique activities and tours.
That is such a good example because it's so true. I mean, when you use Airbnb, it's all about that. It's about the experience. Okay, let's switch gears just a little bit and talk about teamwork. How does continuous discovery work when you've got a whole team of people?
Collaboration is
Yeah.
like key. And the book talks about this thing called the product trio.
Okay.
And so you've got the product manager, the designer, and the engineer.
Okay, the three musketeers of product development. They
Exactly.
each bring their own kind of perspective, their own skills to the table. Exactly. But how do you make sure that, especially when you're tackling something brand new, how do you make sure everybody's on the same page?
One powerful technique is to visualize your collective knowledge.
Hmm.
Imagine creating like a map,
Okay.
a customer journey map.
Okay.
It's a visual representation of every touch point, all the actions, all the emotions, everything a customer experiences when they interact with your product.
Okay, so we're talking about like literally creating a map of their journey, like a roadmap to understand their world.
Exactly. And what's really cool is when teams do this together, they start to uncover blind spots
Oh, wow.
and they gain this much richer understanding of the customer.
So you're almost like piecing together a puzzle,
That's
right? Each member of the trio brings their own pieces, and then all of a sudden you see the full
Yes,
picture.
exactly. Exactly.
But how do you even decide what the scope is? Because if we're building, like, let's say a language learning app, does the map just include what happens in the app? Or does it include, their entire language learning journey? Like, how do you decide what the boundaries are?
You're asking all the right questions.
Ah,
Defining the scope is crucial.
okay.
If it's too broad, you just get lost in a sea of information.
Right. Overwhelming.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And if it's too narrow, you're going to miss crucial context. So in this case, let's say a language learning app,
Yeah.
if you only focus on what happens inside the app, that might be too narrow
Right.
because you need to consider, well, how are they currently learning? What are their motivations?
Yeah.
What challenges are they facing?
It's like, what's their life like?
Yes, exactly. What are they doing
It's-
even offline?
So it's about understanding the whole context. Okay, so maybe a good starting point for the scope is how are people currently learning languages? And then how can we, enhance and personalize that whole experience?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got it. Finding that sweet spot for the scope is going to help your team focus your efforts and ensure you're gathering those really like juicy, relevant insights.
Okay, I love it. Now, let's talk about one of the most, I think, powerful tools in this whole continuous discovery toolkit, and that's the customer interview,
Yes.
the art of the conversation. So teach us, how do we go beyond just asking customers, well, what do you want? And actually uncover those deep-seated needs, those desires that maybe they don't even realize they have.
Traditional market research often falls into this trap of just asking those very direct questions. Like, what features would you like to see?
Mhm.
Why did you choose our product?
Right.
But here's the thing. People aren't always aware of the real
Oh,
motivations.
that's so true. We like to think we're making these rational decisions,
Exactly.
but so often it's our subconscious desires or biases even
Yes.
pulling the strings. It's like that saying, we are not thinking machines that feel, we are feeling machines that think.
That's a great way to put it.
It's true, though. So what do we do?
Instead of asking those direct questions, encourage storytelling. Ask
Yeah.
open-ended questions that invite your customers to really share their experiences.
Okay, examples. Give me an example.
Tell me about the last time you tried to learn a new language. What happened?
Okay.
Walk me through that.
I love that. Okay, so by tapping into a specific experience, you're unlocking so much more. Like you suddenly have their emotions, you've got their motivations, their pain points, all the things. You're going beyond the surface. You're uncovering those golden nuggets of insight.
Exactly. Exactly. And as you're listening, pay attention to those little details.
Yeah.
The nuances. Does their voice change?
Yeah.
Are their eyes lighting up? Those are the moments when the real insights emerge. It's like you can almost feel that connection,
Yeah.
with the human on the other side of the data.
It's not just taking notes. You're really building empathy, building understanding. But once you've had all these conversations, how do you actually keep track of all those golden nuggets? I mean, that feels like it could get overwhelming pretty quickly.
Yeah, and that's where the opportunity solution tree comes in. So, imagine this. You've got this visual representation of your product strategy. It's a tree, okay?
Okay.
And the trunk of that tree, that's your desired outcome.
Okay.
The branches, those are your potential opportunities. And then the leaves, those are all the possible solutions.
I love this. This is great. So you're like mapping out the whole landscape of possibilities
Right.
from the big picture to those really nitty-gritty solutions.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And this tree, it's not static. It's a living document. So as you gather more insights, as you test your assumptions, it evolves.
So it's not just an artifact, right? It's actually a tool that's guiding you.
Exactly.
Love that.
And one of the most powerful things about it is it helps you prioritize.
Oh, that's huge.
Because you can't tackle every opportunity at once. So how do you decide which ones to go after first?
That is like the question, right?
Yes.
For product teams, it's so easy to like get excited about all the shiny objects and then all of a sudden you're off track.
And the tree helps you do that. It helps you prioritize
Okay.
based on, well, what's the customer impact? Is this even feasible? What's the business value? Does this align with our strategy?
So it's like you're taking those opportunities, you're running them through this filter.
Exactly.
And you're like, okay, which ones are most promising? Which ones make the most sense for what we're trying to do?
You got it. And then you learn more.
Yeah.
And you got to be willing to adjust those priorities.
Yeah.
Sometimes you even got to prune those branches.
Yeah, the ones that aren't working.
Exactly.
Love it. Okay, let's talk about generating those solutions. So those leaves on the tree, all those possibilities.
Yes.
The book talks about, brainstorming, coming up with a ton of ideas before you even start to narrow them down. So why is quantity so important when you're brainstorming?
Because it's so easy to just latch on to that first good idea.
Right.
But research shows that's probably not our best idea.
Right. That's the one that's like right there on the surface.
Exactly. So the more ideas you can generate, you start pushing past those obvious solutions. And that's when you really unlock creativity.
It's like you're mining for gold, right? You've got to sift through a lot of dirt and rock before you find those golden nuggets.
You got it. Exactly.
Yeah.
And to get to those golden ideas, sometimes it's helpful to add constraints.
Oh, constraint.
Yeah. So instead of just let's brainstorm solutions, how about let's brainstorm solutions using only emojis?
Oh, I love that.
Or what would this solution look like if it had to be free?
Oh, okay, I love that. Because it forces you to think differently.
Exactly.
You can't fall back on your, usual bag of tricks.
Exactly. It's about embracing those limitations, all right?
Love it.
They actually can spark more creativity. Now, once you have all those ideas, now you have to separate the wheat from the chaff. You got to figure out, what are we assuming here?
Okay, yeah, assumptions, those pesky little beliefs that we don't even realize we have sometimes.
Exactly.
Why is it so important to uncover those, to examine them?
Because our ideas are built on assumptions. And if those assumptions are wrong, the whole thing can crumble.
Yeah, it's like building a house on sand, right? It might look good at first, but it's not going to withstand the storm.
Exactly. So we got to put our detective hats on, scrutinize those assumptions, make sure they're actually true.
So how do you even identify those hidden assumptions? Because they can be sneaky.
One technique is to create a story map. Imagine like you're drawing a comic strip that shows how your idea would play out step by step in the real world. And as you're mapping that out, those hidden assumptions, they start to pop up.
It's like you're creating a storyboard for a movie.
But instead of a plot, you're mapping out like, okay, here's the experience. And then as you do that, those plot holes, those are the assumptions.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. And once you identify those assumptions, it's time to test them.
Oh, yeah. Put them to the test.
Because remember, we're not trying to prove ourselves right. We're trying to see, okay, is this actually true? So we can make really informed decisions.
So we're talking about the scientific method, right?
Exactly.
Form a hypothesis, test it out. So what are some effective ways then to test those assumptions when you're doing this whole continuous discovery thing?
You want to design these small, very focused experiments
Okay.
that allow you to see how our customers actually behaving.
Okay.
And you don't need to go build a whole product. You can do simple prototypes, mock-ups, even something called fake doors.
Fake doors. Okay, I need to hear more about these fake doors. What are we talking about?
So let's say you want to see if people are even interested in a new feature.
Go.
You could create a fake door on your website.
Okay.
It's a button, it's a link, looks like it goes to this new feature, but really it's just a message that says, hey, this is coming soon.
Oh, I see.
But by tracking how many people click on that fake door, you get a sense of, okay, are people actually interested in this?
So you're dipping your toe in the water before you jump in.
Exactly.
Checking the temperature, You're seeing how deep it is.
You got it. And this iterative approach, this constant testing, getting feedback in these small little chunks, that is continuous discovery.
So we're moving away from these big, scary launches where you're like, I hope this works. And
Exactly.
we're taking a much more like agile experimental approach.
I love it.
I thought, but once we've done all this testing,
Yeah.
we've got all this valuable feedback from our customers, how do we actually make sure that those insights are turned into action?
That is when the rubber meets the road.
Right.
This is where continuous discovery fuels continuous delivery. So all these insights, it's telling you what to build, how to build it, when to release it.
So it's like this beautiful cycle happening
Exactly.
where discovery feeds delivery, which gives you more data, more insights, and then it keeps going.
It's this continuous loop, and that's how you build better products faster.
Now, I'm imagining that for some teams, if they're used to that more traditional way of doing things,
Yeah.
the more waterfall approach, this might feel like a big shift.
Yeah.
So how do you help teams embrace this new way of working?
You have to foster this culture of experimentation,
Yeah.
continuous learning,
Okay.
encourage your team. Uncertainty is okay.
Yeah.
Failure, that's an opportunity.
To learn.
And celebrate those small wins along the way.
So create a safe space to try new things, to experiment.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I feel like with continuous discovery, there are always going to be those surprises, those unexpected things that kind of pop up along the way. So how do teams handle those curveballs and still stay on track?
Well, it's like you said, you're sailing in uncharted waters. You got to be ready for those unexpected winds, those currents that just kind of come out of nowhere. Sometimes they're small, like, okay, we just need to adjust our course a little bit. But other times they make you rethink your entire approach. Like, wait a minute, we're in the wrong ocean.
Okay, now you got to give me an example. Give me an example of a discovery hurricane that totally blew a team back to the drawing board.
Okay, so there was this team at Duolingo, the language learning app.
Yeah.
They were working on how do we get more daily active users? How do we get people using this every single day? And their initial hypothesis was, well, gamification. Let's add more gamification features. That'll get people more engaged.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, games, they're designed to keep you coming back, right?
Exactly. So they ran some experiments, right? They added things like leaderboards, badges, and they found that, yeah, those things did work, but in the short term.
Yeah.
People were using the app more, but then they started doing some user interviews, and that's when they found something really interesting.
Okay, tell me more. What'd they find?
A lot of users said, the gamification, it's fun, but it's actually distracting me from, the real reason I'm here, which is to learn a new language.
Oh, interesting.
They were so busy trying to earn points and badges that they weren't actually remembering the information.
It's like those side quests in a video game,
Yes.
They're super fun, but they totally take you away from the main story.
That's a great way to put it. So this was a big deal for Duolingo. They had to, take a step back. They
Right.
realized, wait a minute. This outcome that we were focused on, increasing daily active users, it's not really aligned with what our users actually want.
So they had to go back to the drawing board okay, what are we really trying to do here?
Exactly. And so they shifted their focus. They said, you know what? Our outcome is going to be helping our users make real progress. We want them to actually learn the language. And that led them to prioritize different features, things that reinforce that learning, that retention,
Interesting.
like spaced repetition, algorithms, personalized feedback.
Okay, so a much better outcome.
Much better. And it all came from listening to their users.
Okay, so that's a great example of how continuous discovery, it's not just about those small tactical tweaks. It can actually lead to these really big strategic shifts that make a huge difference.
Exactly.
Sometimes those surprises, they force you to re-examine the whole foundation of what you're doing.
Absolutely.
It's like you're a detective, right?
Yeah.
And you think you've got it all figured out, you know who did it, and then boom,
Yeah.
a new piece of evidence pops up and you're like, wait a minute, back to square one.
Exactly. And that's why this iterative approach is so important, because you're constantly getting new information.
And you're adjusting. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're not afraid of the surprises. We're like, okay, bring them on. This is an opportunity to learn.
Yes.
Okay. But I have to imagine all this discovery, all this iterating, it could start to feel a little messy. So how do you keep things organized? How do you make sure you're moving in the right direction?
It's all about finding the right tools, right? The processes that work for your team. Some teams, they like to keep it really simple.
Okay.
Whiteboards, spreadsheets, that's it.
Okay.
Others need something a little more robust, maybe some software to help them manage it all.
So it's about finding the right hiking gear for the journey that you're on.
I like that. That's a great way to put it. But the key is no matter what you use, you got to have a way to capture those insights, keep track of your assumptions, and document your decisions, because that's how you create that shared understanding.
So you're like creating a trail map of your journey so other people can follow along. I love
Exactly.
that. Now, let's talk about data, because obviously data plays a huge role in all of this.
Hmm.
But how does it fit into this world of continuous discovery?
It's essential, but it's not the whole story.
Right.
Think of data as the ingredients, not the meal.
Okay.
So it gives you valuable insights.
Yeah.
But you have to know what to do with it. It has to be interpreted. You got to analyze it, and then you have to
Ah.
turn it into action.
So it's not enough to just collect data. You
Ye-
have to make sense of it. Like, what is this data actually telling us?
Exactly. And that's where the human element is so important. Because data can tell you what's happening, but it can't always tell you why. So you have to combine that data with those qualitative insights that you're gathering from your customer interviews, from your observations. You even have to use your intuition sometimes.
So you're like a chef,
Okay.
and you have all these incredible ingredients in front of you, but you still need your skills, your creativity, your understanding of how all those flavors work together to turn those ingredients into an amazing meal.
That is such a good analogy. Data without interpretation, it's just noise.
It's true.
It's meaningless.
Okay.
So it's the human element that turns it into something meaningful.
So it's all about finding that balance,
Exactly.
data-driven and human-centered.
Absolutely. And continuous discovery, that's what helps you get there.
Okay.
It's how you make sure your decisions are both data-informed but also customer-centric.
You're building products that are like smart and empathetic at the same time.
Yeah.
They're functional, they're efficient, but
Yeah.
they're also like delightful to use.
Exactly. That is the ultimate goal of continuous discovery, to build things that people love to use, that solve their problems, that feel intuitive and empowering, even joyful.
Products that spark joy.
Yes.
I love it. All right, listeners, we hope this deep dive into continuous discovery has you feeling inspired and ready to embark on your own journey to build products that are truly customer-centric. And remember, it's not about finding that one perfect process or that one magic tool. It's about cultivating a mindset. It's about curiosity, empathy, a deep desire to understand your users. And it's about building those discovery muscles, getting stronger every single day. So go out there, embrace the unknown, and start discovering.